So here we are with my Hubsan 501. It had a bit of a crash and I've took all the screws out to take this piece off. These wires connect into these sockets and I've got my replacement here. So the good thing is there's nothing wrong with the top part, so I don't have to go through all this, even though there's not that much in it to make a change, but it saves pulling and dragging at bits and pieces. So hopefully just looking at this that it will all fit together the same and it looks good. So we can put these pieces aside. This is the box my replacement came in, and I have a few screws and other bits and pieces here and just a couple of screwdrivers which I hope will do for what I need to do. Now I have taken the screws out already because I had a problem here. I had to solder one of these. I don't know if you can see, just this wire broke off and the arm broke off, but everything else seems okay. We've a lot of cables to disconnect and get through little holes to get all this out and then get it set in this one. So we'll see how we go. I haven't done this before, so you're seeing this happen in real time. So let's get on with it and hopefully we can get the screws out for the motors. I think is going to be the first thing to do, whatever's holding them in. And there's a lot of screws. I will speed the video up to get through all this, but I'll leave the video recording while I'm trying to get these screws out. It looks like I'm going to need a better screwdriver, so I'm going to go and get a better screwdriver than that before I bust the screws, and I'll come back to it here. Okay, I'm back with a better screwdriver, and I got this little dish. It's magnetic. Use it for with my car. So just thought with all these little screws, somewhere good dish, somewhere to put them, especially with all the slots in the table. So let's get all these screws out anyway and see where we go from there. So have a little look where we are. Well, the plate, I see here. So now we want to remember which way everything is going, because this is going to be important. And then rebuilding this. It's too easy to make mistakes. So that's one motor out. Let's see what happens here. Just turn it over. Maybe I'll just unscrew them all first and we'll see where we go there. No idea why there's a metal piece on that one and that one, but not on these ones. Anyway. What did I do? Oh, the screws are still in there, yeah. It's a good idea making a video, even though I'm making a video for you, that if you record something taking it apart or take a few photos as you do it, you'd be surprised how many times you would think you remember where everything goes back in place, but not necessarily so. And that can get you in a lot of trouble trying to figure things out. So this is just here. I was going to empty these screws out. So there's the screws. That's easy to get out because that's the broken one. As you can see, this is magnetic. Saved me a lot of problems. So let's just get all these screws out and see where that takes us. There might be a proper way to do this, but I don't know what it is. So you're just seeing what I'm doing. Hopefully the camera's picking this up well. I have no idea. We're just doing this because it might help someone else out if they're afraid to do something like this. I just try to do things myself rather than pay someone else to do it. And I make my mistakes sometimes, so we'll see how I go with this. Will I make mistakes? If I make a bad enough mistake, you may never see the video. This is, for some reason, that, no, the little, it's got itself caught in the motor, the screw. Now it went in. That's a fiddly screw there, look, in the motor. Just fell into the motor, the screw. Hopefully get it out in a minute. So I have to remember that this goes this side. No, that side. Yeah. I'll get that out of the motor in a minute. I just need to, well, there's another screw left in there. And you'll see there's a lot of screws come out of all these little places. And to do something like this, you have to take all the screws out. There's no quick way. Just get them out. And then we have to disconnect some of these cables from the motherboard. And you will see that there's a bit of silicone holding them in place. And that's just so they don't vibrate out. And it'd be a good idea that when you're putting it back together to do the same thing, put some silicone in place. Now we have all the screws out. I don't know if this is a good idea. How do we do this? Maybe the... Oops, here's one. That's where it gets tricky. There's another one in here. That out. And there's some more here. We'll have to do a head count in a minute and see how we have them all. Another one here. I know I still have that one stuck in the motor that I have to have a little look at. Good. Now, that looks crazy, all them bits hanging off like that, doesn't it? So, as you can see, your motor, ESCs, it's easy to see this one was broke apart, but they're all kind of hanging around here. Screws 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and this one caught in the motor. To wiggle this way in, we just have to get it out again. There it is. And she's out. So we have all done there. Let me see where we're at. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is turn this all back over again to take a look at what's going on the other side. Now, as we can see, these little things are in with silicone. These are the lights, the LED lights underneath. And we need to take them out. And then we can feed them back in. This all sits on top, which is not too bad. These all just sit on top. There's wires going around various things. And then we're going to have to take this motherboard out. And then we have the camera buried down inside here. We have to get that out. That seems to be stuck in as well with something. So we're going to have to pick and play at that and see what way that comes out. But let's see. We're going to have to disconnect these bits. I don't need to take it off this because the ESCs, they're all going to come with this main board anyway. But these, just need to get these out. This is kind of, just pick it out some way. Just to disconnect them. You can replace some of that stuff later. Yeah, as you can see, a bit of silicone. Pull some of it off. Nothing fancy. And the same. It'll come out. And you want to take these things out. Now let me see, I have these ones here, there. So where are these going? They're simple enough, they're there. So where are the other two? I'm going to have to find them there. It could, no, they're the ESCs. So what about these ones? Where are they connected? No, here. So here are the other two. They have to come out, the longer wires, so anyway, I'm just trying to be as gentle as I can with some of this stuff. As you can see, long nails are useful. As we work here on this one, let's see, quite sticky this one, but it's still only the same stuff, it's just that silicone stuff holding it in. So yeah, they're all disconnected. I just want to see what way them wires go in around underneath all that. We have to, I think we'll have to lift the motherboard off and see where we're at with that, because I know that's just silicone, don't worry about that. Take these screws out of the motherboard, which makes everything fly. It does a lot of work. Let's see where we get from there. Hopefully all good. Now, what's happening now? What's underneath? The other pieces underneath here. It's very hard to show the camera unless we have to disconnect a cable there. That's power going to them. Listen. It's very hard to show. You're looking underneath. There is a cable going connecting to this, and this is on top here. So I think I'll take that, disconnect that cable, and it might free us from what's on the camera and the board underneath there. So that's that big wire there. So let me see if there's anything else connected. We just have to be very careful as we go. This is all come kind of free from here. We want to get this from here. Now there's another cable here connected down here, just in there. And is that going to come with that board? Well, that has to come out anyway. Oh, this is where you can plug your drone in to reprogram it, do firmware updates. So that's coming out there, so we kind of have to pull that out, and so that's just coming out with the whole lot there. It still looks really crazy with all this stuff hanging off, but just have to try and keep track of what we're doing here. So now we have a lead here coming out. Now that's to do with this little base plate. This has me confused as to, is there a plug underneath now for these little base plate underneath that for to get that out? Our aerial, this is our aerial here connected in here. So I may just pull it out of this little spot in here if I can. It has to come out anyway, so. The camera's not that close, so you're not getting to see everything probably I'm seeing, but I'm doing the best I can here. So here's our aerial. So we're nearly free. We just have this wire going all the way out here to what? It's going all the way out here. There's actually an aerial down inside where the LED is. There, look, just pops out there. So I'm doing my best to keep track of all this stuff. Now if I can just lay this out kind of loosely on the table, I can move on to this other base piece here. And if we get all this out and move it over to this piece, we'll be doing well. And then we can start to move all that on, because that just all sits on top. Nothing gets fed through any of that, so it's just this piece. And as you can see, this just pops out here. That's the broken leg. So if that's the way around, so this one can just pop back in here. Make sure, yeah, of this metal piece that's connected to this. So hopefully there's a way to unplug this wire underneath this on both sides of this. And then we have to contend with our camera, which is held in place. Let's see, it's moving. So we should be able to get the camera. We open them screws, get them out as well. So we need these. Put this over here for a minute. We'll take this one out. I'll pop it in the hole so I know where it goes down there. Take this one out. Well, we can't really go too wrong with these because the cables are long and short. So you have kind of front and back. And it's just fitting everything in then, if that's possible. And that one can get that. So now we're down to the nitty gritty. This little door thing kind of pops out, so we just have to try and see our little door. It pops out on this side, so hopefully I can get it out without breaking it. I'll wait till I get this out, because we don't do any damage to this piece. So we have some screws here and some screws here for the camera, and hopefully all this will just come out in one piece, and we'll be able to disconnect these wires and put these metal plates that I have no idea what they're for, but that's the way we're working. So let's take these screws out. And see where we're going from there. This is actually a 501a. This is the Wi-Fi model. And it works on both Wi-Fi as well as using a radio. So I had little problems. Oh look, that piece comes off there. See, yeah. That holds the camera in. It's just for holding the camera in, and there's some, well, like silicone stuff, which actually came loose. See, it's loose anyway. I didn't pull it out, it just kind of popped out. Let's see if we can lift this board off. This board's coming out. Okay. So underneath, these just go on. These wires just go on like aerial wires. Just kind of clip on. So we're going to have to disconnect them off. There's one. And there's two. So there's our board there. And then we're going to take this out. Our last bit's out of this here. I presume they just pop out. So we're just going to try and give them a little push. There you go. It just pops out. And we're going to have to make sure that that goes on this one here. Wire out. So this one's going to be going on that one here. And we'll take them other wires out that I put in earlier. And we're going to pop this one out. See, that comes out there. Got a screw in there as well. It's been there a while, so pop that out. Save that for when we're putting it together. And there we are. She's coming out now. Okay. So here's our busted one. The only thing we need to do is get the door off it. And so it's just kind of cut in here. So I need to push on this side, just looking at a clip. Hopefully it'll come out. There, she's out. So I've popped one side and then it kind of just slides out the hole from the other one. So now I can put this on the new one as well. Throw that on the floor. Don't need that anymore, hopefully. So we leave these, take these back out again. Just leave them in the order that they were in. Let's remember this is the front and back and all that type of stuff. So these two things have to go in first. So just put the wire in the hole. And then we can put this metal piece up in here somewhere. I hope. Up over that. And it fits in place for later when the screws will hold it in place then afterwards. Now, what we'll do is we'll feed some of the wire around in here. Try and follow the curves. It gives us an idea which direction it should go in. So that it's ready to go back onto this board. And then we do the same with the other one. No idea what they're for. They're like some sort of... Maybe there's something to do with the Wi-Fi. I have no idea. No idea. Let's get this one in place as well. Being as gentle as I can, as you know. This is kind of a delicate joke, isn't it? Around there. Don't know if that goes around, something like that anyway. And the next thing we can do is reconnect them to this board. So here we have the wire, so I presume the one closest to it goes to the one closest to it. So they kind of just clip on. And then this one, do the same. We're going to do the same if we can. Just clip on. And now, our camera's a bit gentle. I can't break any of that stuff off. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to stick it back in the hole if I can. Well, in the new hole. So that's in place where it should be. And then we have our little bracket goes on top to hold the camera in place. And we will have to put some silicone down in there just to stop that rattling around. There's no big thing about it, hopefully. Screw in. One screw in. Where's the other little screw? They're all the same size, so that's good. Is this magnetic? No. So a little magnet thing here, so we're going to rub this on here for a second, this little screwdriver, and make it magnetic. Handy for picking your screws up. Yeah. Glasses come in handy if you're like me and can't see everything. So let's see, I'm just trying to see where that goes around there maybe. Just trying to see what direction the wire feeds. I'm just trying to follow the bends that were in it before to know which direction to put those wires in. And but once they fit you in everything else, it should be okay. Now, working on this part here to get our screws in, hold that board in place. Another screw. Oh, that just fell into place. I like that. Couldn't do that if I tried. Just knock it in there. Another one. The last one, hold this in. Oh. Screw up again. We'll use this just to get it in place, or just doesn't grip that well, that screwdriver. Just want it as good a fitting screwdriver as you can have. So all these things are in place. The only thing is, I'm going to have to pause the video and go and get some silicone to put in there before I put the rest on top, and I can't see it again. So that's what I'm going to do for now. I'm going to go off and get some silicone so we can just pop it in there and we can get that sorted. Okay, I'm back now. Went and got my silicone and some tissue to wipe my fingers after I get some of this stuff on. But I need to get a little bit down in there, so I'm just going to open this up and see, I get a little bit on the screwdriver maybe. Just put some down in here. Doesn't matter how sloppy it is, just get some there, just to stop that camera from moving around later when in flight. And we're going to put some on when we're putting the plugs in, and hopefully make a difference. Now, put that back on there for a minute. And put it out of the way, a bit of tissue because it'll just get messy afterwards. So I'll just wipe that off. Now, where were we? So we have all that in there. We can put this board on now in place, and then we have to feed these into the board. Okay, so this is our front end of the board. Now, remember we had all these other little bits pieces. This is where memory comes in. So one piece that has to go down in here, this area has to go down, and once you're doing this, I don't want to move the camera and it's hard to move this around, but you'll see there's a special slot for sticking in an aerial. And once that's in, it is fairly steady, but they, when building this, had put silicone. So we're going to do the exact same. It shouldn't cause a problem, the aerial floating around anyway. I think I'll just pull it up another bit then. Let me take that away again. In like that. Yeah. Just put a bit of silicone in on top of that, and because it'll be too hard to get at later. So I'll just push this up a bit. We have some sticking nature. Maybe just leave the top off. We're going to be here. We finished in a few minutes doing all this mess in here. So what we want is just some way of silicone, blob of silicone in there. It's messy. Now, so we leave that there for the moment because we probably need it. Now, let's do that. Okay, so that's in place now. I'll try and show you. There you can. There's our aerial in there. Load of silicone to stop it moving around. There's a little slot that kind of sticks into. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. And we're just going to make sure that's in. We've moved a little bit, but that's okay. The silicone's not set yet. Now, this little piece has to slot down in here. Remember, this is for updating your firmware and all that type of stuff. So that's one thing that needs to go in. And so before we locate all this window cable, and this cable I think can have to feed up between there, and then we get down at this one and see, and it slides then into place. It's in there. These you'll just kind of feed your way in and find where some of these things already were. This is a little bit tight there. I wonder if I just don't want to break anything. Yeah. There's a bit of a clip in there. I would have preferred if it was more straight, but I'm just going to leave it alone. It's still in there. It'll still do the job it's supposed to do, and then wires go around there, and that'll screw on there in the end. But not yet. So, if you remember the last time we were over this side, there's less to fit down into the places. If that had more wires and things because I had this connector going in. So we can move on up here. Let's see what's happening here now. Just want to see where these locate on here. The screws locate on there. Is there anything in the way? These wires, because then there's a lot of wires up this end. This plug has to go back in here. One of the ones we'll put in silicone in, because I don't want any of them vibrating loose, because it will not want to fly. It definitely will not want to fly if anything comes loose. So I'm just going to try to find my way in where all these wires look like they might feed in. Kind of sitting there. We need to put more stuff in there. I want to see what am I pushing against? I'm pushing against something. Oh, that wire there. Pushing against wires. We kind of have that. This one has to go down and locate on that. We want them in the right places. So we're going to put a screw in and see how we go. If this is going to stay where we want it. Oh yeah, the screws are going to be a little bit tighter going in because they've never been in there before. I just remembered that. And now this screw in here. Doing this. And down here. Onto this one. Going in. There's a few other cables that need to be worked in. Hopefully I can get them in around here to where they need to go after screwing this in. And one last screw down in here. And our motherboard is screwed down. And that's my dog barking in the background. He doesn't care if I'm making a video or not. He barks at just about anything. So just making sure all these screws are tight. Now, we have more wires to feed in around here. But first, before I do that, I think I'll wait because, and I might have to pull this one out again, because I have another wire that has to feed into here. So I'm going to get this one, because this has to feed up into here. I can actually, whenever I think of it, I can actually, no. Oh, I was going to put the screw motors on. No, these have to go in first. These wires need to go into place first. Try and find a way through all this for the wires. You'll see little slots way down in here that these wires can fit into, just to clip them in place, kind of hold them in place. And so we're just trying to find our way in here. You know that this has to be plugged in here. And when we've done all this, obviously we're going to be putting more silicone in to hold things in place. So again, there's little wire channels. And I'll try to do my best to keep them in the wire channels, and that will make it a lot easier when we're trying to clip everything together, because if one of these things, I've learned, if they're not properly washed, they won't get trapped and not work right, and we don't want that to happen. So that's that one in there. Our next one here. In here. And we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to plug it in first. That seemed to work well the last time. Plug it in and actually follow the wire back. Instead of putting it in and going, oh, the wire won't reach, there's something wrong. Just get them down into those little channels that, and grooves that are there. Be careful now if you're doing what I'm doing. I'm using a screwdriver, but I don't want to damage the wires, so I'm just trying to get it down. There's a little spot here, it's going in there now, that's good. Down in there. And then that'll make it a little easier, because once we have these in place, we can screw the motors on, and all those bits that looks really complicated will not be so complicated. Uncomplicate things as best we can. We're still going here with wires, and it is one of those things, you have to be like a liar, have a good memory. Get up through there some way. And now, this is where it could get tricky. I don't remember where all these wires, there's some wires here. So, and it has to go underneath this as well. So, this will be a tricky one maybe, so let's go underneath that. And put it in underneath there, just the shortest route for the wire, and then try and put it in little places out of the way. I think I need to lift that up a bit there. I can see a little, just looking for little channels to put these wires into. This one needs a little help. There's a lot of wires in the way here. I think I might just lift this thing out if I can. I don't want to come out now. No, I'm not going to force it. I got it in, it's going to stay in. Just trying to see where I can put this wire in. And this is where it gets tricky. You're going to feed them wires in, because when you're trying to put that upper shell back onto it, there's a wire in the way. You're going to trap it in something and it's going to drive you nuts trying to fit it in then. So let's try and do it right the first time. Now that's gone down in there. Perfect. Perfect. Now I have this wire in. I need to move this wire over because this is in the way. So move it over to this slot. I know you can't see, just hear me talking about these things, but you start to do this, you'll remember all the little slots. You have to kind of just feed these wires in. And maybe to show when I get all these motors screwed back on again, it won't be as fiddly looking. Because there's no way I could lift this up to show you, because it'll just all end up in a mess. We have an extra wire with this as well. We have an aerial wire which goes down in there. Little aerial, and that goes down inside the light we're going to put on, because there's space for it. I'm sure if you wanted, you could have them hanging outside or do anything with them, but the interesting thing about this for me is I've seen modifications where there's aerials put onto the top of, onto the top of the shell. And you've seen where I connected the aerial in underneath, so you just need to get that cable all the way down in under there, and you can put a big aerial out. I don't know if it gives you more range or not, but we're doing this. We're going to get this flying again first before we do anything. So we're just trying to figure this out. So we have one more of these to feed through. And then we might be able to start screwing those motors on, all them screws back in again. And then, right, we need to turn this around so I can have a better look at this. Trying to be as gentle as I can all the time with this. And then, oh look, this is the little slot for your air. We'll put the aerial down into that hole there when it goes on, but don't worry about that for the moment. We need to get this connected up in there and then feed that wire all the way back around in here. Now we haven't got as many obstacles on this side as the wire had on the other side. There was more wires and things in the way. Yeah, that's plugged in as well. These are just for your LED lights, you know. The worst thing that happens, one of them, the lights don't work. Need to be quite honest, I could live without a light, but we need to get these wires in as best we can. Just trying to put that down and get it out of the way, so I can feed this one in on top of that where that aerial wire went, and that's out of the way as well. So we're down in here, just feeding this along, following the bends and curves in the wire that were there already. Now, oops. So that's all squeezed in there. We don't have to worry too much about that light yet. So we're nearly at the point of getting the ESCs in place. And we get all them in place, then we can screw all these motors back in. I might try and put one screw in each motor first and then fix the wires up and see how we are there. It's kind of messy looking at this at the moment with all these things upside down. I think we'll use our magnet screwdriver here. No, I'll have to turn upside down and try and place these motors in place, and then we worry with the ESCs then. Turn upside down. Okay. Now get these in place and hopefully get a screw in. So there we are. Let's see if we've got a screw. It's not the best screwdriver, but it will help just to get them screws in place. Again, another screwdriver. We have 2 screws in that one. So I'm just going to pause this for a moment. So here we are back again. I just had to move something there for a moment, but this one, you'll see the silver plates on opposite ends for some reason, and it was connected to the board underneath, which could be to do with the Wi-Fi. I'm not sure. But this is screwdriver is okay just putting them in, but it's not going to be suitable for tightening them because I know it's going to slip. That's why I didn't take it out with them, but it's just handy because it's magnetic. It's just holding them, getting them in for me in place quickly, which is not taking too long, so you won't mind watching this bit just for a minute while I rattle on a bit. And you can see it underneath here. Some people, if they want to oil motors, there's a little placing underneath there you could oil, and maybe at the top, I'm not sure. There is some videos on YouTube of oiling motors on these, and I haven't actually tried it yet, but it's something we might get round to sometime. So there we're 8 screws in, that's good. Now we're just going to slide it around here. Have our motors on that side, which is looking good for me so far, and hopefully. Now, turn it up the right way might help. Motor in place. Get a screwdriver. Now I've heard people mention that when they have their thing, they'll see that the motors are actually near one side or not the other side. And I've read that Hubsan have actually angled the motor slightly. So don't worry about if it's doesn't look correctly aligned in the plastic, the motor itself. Within the circle, if you understand what I mean, if it's not directly in the circle, that's because the motor is angled to help it fly better. The body part is nothing much to do with that. So now the screws are getting less now, and I like that. Let's get down into this one if I can. One metal plate. There we go. And there. All screws are present and correct. Nearly have them all in. At this point, it's quite possible I could even put these on it, but I have to tighten all these screws with a better screwdriver. That's what I'm going to do now, because we do not want our motors to come loose. So I'm just going to go around all the screws, tighten all them. There we go, and all the screws. And so, My problem with this drone was that because it's a Wi-Fi model, it was supposed to have a new compass in them that didn't need to be calibrated all the time. However, it started to fly a little erratically, doing circles in the sky, and wouldn't respond to the controller I had. So I've since discovered a way that you can manually use your controller to give this a message to begin to calibrate the compass, and the lights will start to spin in a circle like they would normally on the ordinary model, if you like. So we're not going to put these on yet. I could put them on, there's only a couple of screws, put them on, but let's see what's on. Oh yeah, well, they're all tightened up, so yeah, it could be okay. So my screws, my bag of screws is over here, I think. So I put them in here with some new motors I got. And we can put them screws on, hopefully, and then the ESCs will slot back in, and we're getting ready to get the top piece on. We've lots of screws hanging around in here. I don't know what that little tiny one's for. Anyway, so let's just get them screws out. And no idea what they're off, but anyway, nothing else to go in there. No. Oh no, these you can't put them in there. They actually hold the whole frame on top. Okay, so let's turn it over. It's starting to look more like something that'll work now. We have to fit all these in, these wires and these ESCs, and we want to put some silicone, like I said before, in where all those other pieces I disconnected were. I'm just trying to fit this ESC in there, that it fit in flat. Alright. All these things don't always fit in the way they come out, but sure, let's see. Get the cables in. Let's see where we're at. That one's in place anyway, that's good. Once it's in there out of the way, that's good. And oh, this one was the tough one because of this little piece here, but it did go in. It did go in. Yeah, she's in. Just get them wires down out of the way. And hopefully now, when I've put all this together, it will need an IMU calibration. If that's something you don't know what to do, I looked that up as well. It's the same thing. Use your controller to set it into IMU calibration mode. It's just like doing a full system reset, if you like. Because if you don't do that full system reset, it doesn't know what flat is. So you want it to know where it's exactly flat. And then after that, you can do your compass calibrations. But the IMU must be done first, because it may think after a crash that sitting at an angle like this is flat. So when you do your calibration, it's not going to fly right. It's just not going to fly right. So that's why I do it. So I have those in place now. I'm going to have to put silicone on a lot of bits and pieces that I've connected here, because if I don't, a final check on them. I just want to get these back in here. The wires out of the way. There's a lot of stuff to tuck in out of the way with these. And I've known from previous experience of fiddling around with things that if you don't do this, it's going to give you a hard time in the end. So this needs to come forward a little bit somewhere. That cable. This is way back. That should be way up here somewhere. In there somewhere. I don't know. These wires in here. This is the one I soldered, so it's looking a bit iffy to get in. But should we get it in? Get it out in either way. That's all I need to know. And then my problem is just getting that wire around there. That's the one I soldered. And it's another skill I hadn't got till I started to play with these things. It's a good thing to learn how to solder a little bit. I'm not perfect, but everyone can learn these things if they want to. Now, what we want now is to silicone all these connectors, just to make sure that they stay where you want them. So we're going to do that now. Get some silicone. There's a lot there, but anyway. It's not going to matter too much. Just put it on. And these ones here. Just put it on. Doesn't matter if it gets on other wires. It doesn't conduct any electricity, so it's not going to give you any problems. Just there, okay? Yeah. I want to move that down there, back. I'm just looking at places where things might snag a little bit. I'm just going to have a look at my top piece. It's hard to know. There's just one here. If I can pull it back a bit, yeah, it's down in there. That's down in there, down in there. I've put some silicone on all these. I have to do on that one as well. Nearly forgot. So let's put some on here. I'm doing this here. And this here. Now, very good. That's all them done now, and yep. The next thing is to put the top piece on, connect the cables. And you can see there's two spots here that need to be connected. Silicone on them as well now. Let me see this one. You can see the way it's going. A little trick here now. Put silicone on there, but let's get these in first. We'll worry about that in a minute. So that's the cable in there. This is to do with your GPS, I think, on top. Which way around is that? Let me see. Yeah, let's go that way. Just getting this plug in. They're all fiddly little things. So. You see? Oh no. Just making sure before you start applying any pressure of any sort. What goes where? Just make sure that's connected all the way into the board. It's not really, it's going kind of crooked. What's happened here? Let me see. Let's take that out again. And I'm going to just push one of them pins just correctly. No, they're okay. Just good to make sure anyway. I'm full of this silicone now and touching off everything. So let's go again. I'll put this one in first maybe. Might be luckier. Put it in. There she is. Nice click. I did mean to show you all the little channels that those wires go through. You see they're kind of popping out down here. See the way it's nice and tidy in there, so we're just trying to keep these down in the here when we're just putting the top piece on, all those things don't move around too much. And you can see somewhere I put the silicone on there as well. And I'm just going to put some silicone on these two wires I just connected now as well. And that should hold them in place. If I can get some of this stuff now. So I'm just going to put some silicone there, stop these vibrating loose as well. Another little bit here for the other one. Doesn't really matter where it goes, just stick it on anyway. Yeah. So it's all a bit of a handful here now, so we're just going to stand this up here like this for a minute and just make sure all them wires, we're going to put this piece down on top over everything, and we want to get these pieces to go down together if that's possible. Just gently see what's going on until we get them all pushed together, hopefully. That goes into that one. So that side's gone in there nicely. Well, till we put the screws in. And oh, she's cracked on top here, so I'm going to have to make a change. There's a crack on the top there. I don't need to, but now that I see it, is it worth anything? No, it's not that bad. It's still usable. A few little bumps on it, but no, I'm going to leave it alone because I have a spare one. Yeah, it's good to have a spare. I don't know. Just looking. Or maybe I'll take it off. She may as well go the whole way if I can. Although I'd be pulling off all that stuff from the top. No, I think I'm going to leave well enough alone. Less work to do. There's a few little marks on it, but it's going to fly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it's going to get a few more marks maybe. Hopefully not, but let's get this one into place here. You can see the kind of old pieces kind of locate into little slots and holes and whatever. So I don't see any wires sticking out. The front part clips. Now, and then we have to put the back door on, which is, you know, simple enough, but we're just going to screw all this together and see how it goes together first. So now we're getting to a point where we have something that looks like a machine that'll work. Just aerial down in that hole. And it's just kind of all sitting here. Now, it's starting to look nice. So now we have to go through our million screws. I think I'll start at the body and work out. I think they're all the same, so. You just gotta watch me as I continue to do this. I'm not going to screw them in tight with this screwdriver, of course, because it's just slipping on them. It's just not a good grip, but it's handy just for putting them in place. And of course, these haven't been threaded in before into this plastic, so you're going to be self-tapping, if you like, the screws into the plastic as you put it together. Something fell on the floor that time. Well, that went all the way in there. See, it's a screw. Oh, all right, it's top. This one. Now, I wouldn't try and fly it today, obviously, because that silicone has to set, and let's not cause any more upset. So, this is what we're going to do here. Just tighten these up. Now, we need more screws. Lots of screws to tighten up this one. And this one. So we have all them screws. Now we can just put the screws in for these lights. The LEDs. And it'll begin to look like a Hubsan 501a again. You can feel these screws a bit tight going into the new body, but that's good, it'll hold it together well. So. Just spin it around. Around. So let's see what's going on here now. Oh, so it just clipped into place there. I'm sure that's important. Oops. Yep. This screwdriver's got a bit magnetic from all the work here at one thing and another. I'm sure you don't really need me to show you how to screw a screw in. Anyway, it's part of the whole thing going together, so I can see completed. And hopefully it will fly okay after all this work. Well, sure. There's lots of things we can do with these. It's, you know, you do the firmware on them, and especially if there's a problem, you can download the firmware from Hubsan, and the software for doing that. Just plug it into your computer, look up YouTube. They have videos on YouTube exactly how to do it. I have done it. Upgraded firmware on the 501s and the controller, and it's not that hard. Worked exactly as they said it would, so, and it flies okay, so that works for me. So now, here's the interesting thing. We can actually pick it up in one piece. Yet again. Now, our little trapdoor. On the inside, you probably won't see this on the camera, but on the inside, there's a little hole on one side and a slot on the other. So you kind of put it in the hole, and you have to get that in as best I can. Let's try and put it in the hole and then slot it down into place. So we're going to work on that. It doesn't want to go in. It's going in. It's going in one side just to slot it down. And slot it into place, and there we are. She's ready to go. So, and there we are, completed. From our broken one to this. One complete shell. So, I hope that helped and you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up for me.